Hello, hello. Good morning to most, good afternoon to others, and good evening to the viewing audience across the pond. I'm your host, not Jason Miles. This is M. Toussaint, here for another episode of This is Revolution. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us this lovely Saturday afternoon. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So glad to have you all here with us. Today, my co host is the man of the Mau Mau Hour, the homie, the dog, Pascal Robert.
Peace and greetings to the chat. Peace and greetings to the audience. Peace and greetings, M. Toussaint.
Hey, how are you this fine day?
I'm fine. So I'm the co-host you're playing the host. What a wonderful setup it is.
That's true. I'm playing the host today. Just playing. I'll go back to my regular position soon enough. So, we're talking about your girl, Kamala Harris, today.
She ain't my girl. I don't know where you get that from.
Well, let me read the intro. The political landscape in the United States has shifted dramatically over the past few years. The ascension of Donald Trump, propelled by a wave of racial animus, faux populism, and a fierce rejection of identity politics, seemed to signal the end of the liberal racial identitarianism that flourished during the Obama years. However, the Democratic Party's recent announcement that Vice President Kamala Harris will be their nominee to face Trump in the upcoming election suggests that identity politics may still play a pivotal role in American politics. Kamala Harris, the daughter of Indian and Jamaican immigrants, has long embraced both sides of her heritage. Yet her identity has been a focal point of political attacks, with Trump attempting to question her blackness in a room full of black reporters, a move that backfired, eliciting boos from the audience. As the Democratic Party once again leans into the "I'm with her" slogan, reminiscent of Hillary Clinton's campaign, the question arises: will Harris's identity galvanize the African American intelligentsia, particularly in a post George Floyd America where the chattering class has been notably quiet? This episode of This is Revolution podcast will delve into how the African American intelligentsia might react to a potential Kamala Harris presidency. Will they see her as a beacon of progress despite her past role in the tough on crime policies of the 1990s? Or will they reject her as another establishment figure out of touch with the needs of the Black community?
Some very in-depth questions there. Our thoughtful leader put together.
Already in-depth questions. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Are you a part of the African American intelligentsia?
Are you? You should ask yourself that question.
Good question.
Intellectual producer du jour at the highfalutin left progressive sets, Jacobin. This is the Revolution podcast. Ask yourself that question.
I guess that's true, right?
Exactly.
I was reading the script thinking, is Pascal part of the intelligentsia? I didn't know it.
I I think that there is a certain kind of I think that out of the black political class, there comes what Jason in this title called the black chattering class, which are the
Mhm.
media and literary professionals who will go along to help cater the political tastes of the black community and put them in line with normally the Democratic Party, and they do this in exchange for patronage, which we've always called fat back and biscuits. We always talk about this particular class of people. I think that there are black people who are intellectuals. I
Mhm.
might be a black intellectual, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm part of the quote unquote traditional black intelligentsia, which may be more in line with that process of curtailing black political thought in a certain way and direction that has been traditionally in line with the normal ways of thinking about itself or the community, whether they be
Hmm.
nationalists or whether they be Pan Africanists that stick to a certain script. I do consider myself a Pan Africanist for other reasons, but the point I'm trying to say is that I think that uh, there are traditional black intellectual and there's African American intellects here that exists, but they don't necessarily have to be in line with the political vision of the Democratic Party. The type of
Mhm.
African American intelligentsia or black chattering class that I think the questions that we're talking about addressing today are the ones that work at the behest of the Democratic Party to try to tailor the political aspirations of black voters to meet the demands of the Democratic Party. And in this case, that means to support Kamala Harris.
Hmm. That is a very good answer. Because I was going to ask you to define black chattering class as well, and what the difference is between the two. But these are the people who are sort of getting the fat back and biscuits from the DNC.
Yes.
Huh. Gotta follow the fat back and biscuits. You really do.
Yeah, you get a lot. There's a lot. You get a lot of gristle off that fatback and biscuit.
Lagers. So, how has the concept of identity politics evolved from the Obama era to the current political climate?
That's a really good question because I got to tell you, I was one of the first people who have to admit I thought that after Obama, with the rise of Trump, that um, identity politics was pretty much done for the Democratic Party because that Trump had just put the nail in the coffin with that one, and that
Mhm.
it really had worn its welcome out, and that the Republican Party had moved the political dialogue so far to the right that the Democrats' ability to use that again was pretty much vanquished. And what we see was with the weakness of the Biden presidency's campaign after his performance at that debate with Trump in his first debate of the political season this year,
Mhm.
that everyone all of a sudden circled wagons and was like, "Oh, Biden's got to go." Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's just he can't do it. He can't do it." As if
Mhm.
this is the first time we saw Biden floundering at the microphone. I was like, we've seen Biden weak at the mic many times. I don't know why everyone's acting like now this is the first time that he had problems communicating, but once that was realized and it was pivoted and Biden signaled that he was going to back Kamala Harris, I was uh I wasn't shocked that he said he was going to back her, but I was like, they're going to try this again. How are they going to pull this off? And
Mhm.
I gotta say, it went up like a balloon, man. Uh, s- it really they marketed her as if she had never gone through a primary before. I mean,
Mhm.
let's not forget this is a woman when she first tried to win in 2020 when she put up herself in candidacy. She was performing so badly with black voters that she had to pull out of the primary in 2020. She was doing
That's right.
that terribly. So I was saying to myself, they're putting her, they're trial ballooning her this time. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And lo and behold, it seems like it's working. It's resonating. Well, I mean, I'm seeing the amount of energy behind Kamala Harris. It's
Mhm.
in some segments. It's like Obama, very similar to the Obama type energy that you had in 2008. But also, what you're seeing as well is that I think it's tied up in a certain class politics. Like I think that um, she has definitely the black professional and managerial, the black PMC, the black professional and managerial class tied now. That they definitely support her because she validates and vindicates them. She validates their presence in the overall working of American capitalism and vindicates them for all that they do to protect their interests there. So because of that, they are definitely whether or not supporting her. But the question becomes, what about the more disaffected working class segments of black supporters? We have certain phenomenon that has developed in the wake of Obama that we didn't have before. Certain
Mhm.
identitarian kind of uh, authentication groups, for example, Foundation of Black Americans, ADOS, that are demanding that she's not, frankly, she's not black enough. She's not black. That she has no tie to the African American, traditional African American experience. Yeah, her father might be Jamaican, but she doesn't have ties to, the foundational Black American experience. And these voices aren't going anywhere. And what's happening is that a lot of those voices came to be born as a product of the failures of the Obama presidency to meet the needs and demands of African Americans in the wake of the 2008 subprime home crash, where
Mhm.
black people lost something in that almost like 50 to 30, almost 35 to 50% of their wealth without recourse during the Obama presidency. So as a result, I was very shocked to see the Democrats pull out the Kamala Harris identity politics card. But so far, it's working for them not only with black voters, but it seems to have been it's poking interest in some Latinos as well as an increase in registration with some Latinos. So there's been a surge, like Del Sol Verde says, new data indicates a surge in voter registration among key demographics for the Democratic election. This data was compounded compared to 2020 by figures Target Smart. So what we're seeing is that there are no people younger people coming in registering to vote as opposed to Kamala Harris. So she's definitely bringing in energy to the Democratic Party that they did not have before. So that she's beating Trump in polls that Biden was failing at in terms of the swing states. She's within the margin of error in many, many swing state polls. So far, the identity politics game is working very, very well because her position politics stances are very, very weak. She doesn't have
Mhm.
any kind of salient commentary she's making that justify anyone galvanizing around her candidacy. But at the same time, she's able to play the kind of, you know, I'm a warrior, I'm a joyful warrior kind of vibe. She's on the big on the vibes kind of thing,
Mhm.
and she's hoping that will be able to get her into office.
I believe the word is joy. She's not bringing energy, she's bringing joy. We are supposed to be joyful that we have Kamala. And I wonder how much of this is we're so glad we don't have Biden anymore. How much of this is her just being a warm body, a Democrat warm body, and how much of this is her being Kamala?
Wow. So you're saying that really it's not even so much about her per se. It's that we're so happy that she's not Joe Biden.
I wonder. What do you think?
I mean, she doesn't. She's kind of a very empty palette.
Hmm.
I don't. I think that she presents something in which anyone can project anything on her because she doesn't have much of a record to stand on in
Hmm.
terms of where she's taken her politics. And frankly, it's very disconcerting to me. I saw the interview she did on CNN, and it was kind of vapid. It was a little empty. I don't know if you watched that. It wasn't really particularly impressive at all. Someone said her interview was very bad. I know she's smart, but she speaks like George Bush's "freedom is where dreams take flight" or whatever he said. And it didn't strike me that she had a lot of punch to her to her her answers at all. So I'm trying to figure out like how far can they carry this at this late in the game in the selection.
We have 70 days left until election day.
That few, that many.
Yeah, they don't have to carry it that far.
Well, she can't escape Trump. She's got to debate him at some point.
She does. That is one thing that she can't don't fa her way out of.
You keep calling her the Dolphin. I find that very funny.
She was not elected. Nobody chose her. She
Well,
was
she
just
got the
chosen.
delegates at the convention.
Yeah, because she's a warm body. She was there because she was chosen to be vice president. That was the original choice to set up these other choices.
You're not a fan. You're not big on Kamala.
I'm not
Kamala.
uh
Kamala. Excuse me.
Kamala.
Kamala.
I'm not a Kamala fan. I mean, I'll tell you honestly, I saw um a Facebook post where somebody was in some store like Walmart or Dollar Tree or something, and there were all these cups, and each cup had a different letter on it. So somebody arranged the cups on the second row to say Kamala, and the post said it was a picture of that, and the post said, "I'm just doing my part out here. I understand the assignment," something like that. So I don't have that kind of joy. I don't have that kind of fervor for Kamala. I was in the tank for Bernie. I was all in. He was definitely the compromise, but we are nowhere near that.
Your politics are just too radical for us to deal with Kamala Harris.
I'm too black. I'm too strong. I'm too left. She can't handle me, man. Well, let me ask you about the identity politics. Doesn't the right also play identity politics? They have their tokens.
They do. And I think they're newer at it and they haven't got the proper concoction yet. It's worked the right has worked more effectively at the state level with their identity politics, and
Mhm.
they've used different types of identities. The right has effectively used conservative Hispanics in certain states, like the state of Florida, and various parts of the South. They've used Indian Americans.
Mhm.
Shout out to Vivek Ramaswamy. Or shout out to
That's right.
uh, what's
Bobby
his name?
Jindal,
Bobby Jindal. Shout out to the sister from South Carolina. What's your name again?
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley. Yeah, and but they have not been able to have success on the national stage like the Democrats did with Obama.
Right. Very true.
Yeah, and it seems like when the Republicans use the identity politics candidates, they're always a caricature of some kind of like self-hating figure in some
Mm.
ways when they're talking about communities of color that just are so disparaging that it's really, really just too much to take.
Hmm. What does the backlash to Trump's questioning of Harris's blackness reveal about the current state of racial discourse in America?
It's very low. It's very low. I mean, I think the question in and of itself is irrelevant. Whether
Mm.
she, I mean, even okay, she could be as let's she's Africa black, so, and does that mean her politics is going to be ever any better than they would be if they're any more centrist, wedded to the Democratic Party
Mm.
normalcy? No, not at all. So I mean, I think it's really just kind of a it's an attempt at Trump to highlight this friction between this new current faction of black online voices who declare racial authenticity, these ADOS FBA types, who
Mhm.
don't want to deal with black people from immigrant backgrounds getting involved in their political affairs, frankly, because they feel that they got burned too badly with Obama. And I've always told them, I said, listen, what about Cory Booker? Cory Booker's ADOS. Do you think he was going to be giving you any different politics than Obama would have? This is ridiculous to
Mhm.
assume that somehow it's the identitarian aspect that is
Mhm.
leading them. James Clyburn there's no more ADOS person. James Clyburn was around during the civil rights movement. He's been tap dancing for a big pharma for years, you know? So
Yeah.
the notion that these different types of identitarian makeups will dictate some type of return on investment that changes the game is kind of ridiculous. So I think that people talking about whether Kamala Harris is black enough or not black or super black or I'm black and proud or too black and too strong. Oh
Mhm.
no, it's all ridiculous. We got a super chat here.
Hey, let's pull up that super chat.
Andy Williams. Andy Williams. Shout out Andy Williams. What do
Would
you
you like
think?
to read it? Good.
Yeah, what do you think of the discourse of the leftists voting for Kamala and pushing her, or is it a betrayal of leftist bona fides if they vote for Kamala? I'm not one of those kind of leftists who likes to tell people who to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, and I'm not one of those people who's like, if you vote for Kamala, you've betrayed leftist bona fides. I think there's a certain strategy about this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a leftist and you live in a swing state, and you live in a state like Florida, or you live in a state like Pennsylvania, and you're worried about the consequences of a Donald Trump presidency, if you vote for Kamala Harris, I'm not mad at you. I'm not going to be like, oh, you sold out. If you're in a safe state like California or New York and you vote third party, I'm not going to be like, oh, you wasted your vote. I think we can chew gum and walk at the same time and not castigate each other for doing something that is a personal decision. Voting is a personal decision. There's a strategic choice in exercising your political principles in terms of what actually gives you a return on your investment. It's a personal choice, this notion that we all have to like be kowtowed to do one thing or the other. I've never understood that about American politics as to why we feel we have to literally tell people what their personal voting choices should be.
But isn't it people like the leftists voting for Kamala, the ones that keep getting us the lesser of two evils as our choices? Isn't it their fault?
How is it their fault? It's that they're the ones get the system of the American political party system in America is rigged in a way that makes the two-party system literally the normative du jour of protecting bourgeois capitalism. We have a bourgeois left capitalist party, which is the Democrats. We have a bourgeois right capitalist party, which are the Republicans. That's not going to change because a certain number of leftists vote Green Party in Florida in an election and try to tip the scale. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the fact. What we need to do is to find some way is to structurally change the way in which the political system works in this country, so that we can have third party or fourth party options and remove the party from the two party hegemony. And it has to be done at the top as well as the bottom.
So you were not going to vote for RFK.
No, I was not going to vote for. I don't believe in telling people who I want to vote for either.
Ah, well, that's a good policy, I think, because it is
Yeah,
personal,
it's personal. It's a personal point.
and there's no way to prove it.
No,
One thing that I don't entirely understand, or at least there was a time where ADOS type of people made a distinction between Africans and Black people will say in the New World who experienced slavery, and they felt closer to the experience of those Black people whose ancestry had experienced slavery before. They don't. I don't seem to see this sort of distinction with Kamala. Obama got by, but she's not.
Well, I mean, I think these. I don't think we should give into the ridiculous idiosyncrasies of these new online phenomena. These hashtag harassers of FBA and ADOS talking about they want to distinguish between the foundation of Black Americans and the Afro Caribbeans who've been here for 75 years as well. I mean, give me a freaking break. I mean, give me. It's so ahistorical and ridiculous. But the bottom line is divisive. It's a way to divide Black people among different directions. And uh, in the end, it is true that Obama got a pass in a way that Kamala Harris didn't. But I think that putting the pressure on Kamala Harris is a consequence of coming after Obama's presidency,
Mm-hmm.
because the degree to which many Black people, particularly in online spaces, and we got to remember, Obama was pretty much the first social media president.
True.
You know, we didn't have to worry about hearing people's opinion on Twitter, make statements about what they thought about a president. So that kind of gave an echo chamber to a lot of stupid opinions that we didn't normally have to care about.
You make a good point. We have another super chat.
Voting is but one aspect of the civic duty we leftists have. Are you organizing your workplace? Are you joining various pressure groups? That's a very good point. Dizzle McFizzle with the interesting commentary once again. Good
Mm-hmm.
one.
Uh, there was a time when Chuck D said, "Voting is the least you can do."
That's absolutely correct.
All right, so we have another question. How effective are Trump's racially? Oh, did we just do that? How
No, we
effective
didn't.
are his racially charged attacks against Kamala Harris in shaping public perception, particularly among Black voters? Did you get that?
Oh, I don't think. I think it's I think it's only affecting a segment of Black voters who are being swayed by that discourse coming out of that FBA 8 all set. Like in
Mm-hmm.
places in Chicago, I think in places though you have a diverse tendency of Black identities, like in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, those people wouldn't be swayed by that kind of discourse because they're used to seeing Black people who come from different origins in their in their localities.
Mm-hmm.
Black people from in places like L.A., Detroit, Chicago, maybe even the South, they're going to be more open to that type of discourse because they're more alien to ideas of seeing Black differentiation in terms of identity.
A friend of mine contacted me the other day, and
Oh, dropping down.
dropping dime, and he told me that on all these hip hop shows, they're totally right wing.
What
So,
what hip hop shows are you talking about?
like, No Jumper, stuff like this.
You mean the online ones?
Yes, the online ones. DJ Academics.
Academics is a right winger?
Academics is a Trumper.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, these guys might be cashing checks. We don't know about that.
You know what? You make a good point. Fatback and biscuits gotta follow the crumbs, right?
But don't get it twisted. The Republicans have their own version of fatback and biscuits. These might have some bacon in there.
Look at that. Well, I think that's another place that Black people are getting their anti-Kamala stances from. Some of these shows. I mean, it makes sense. You have a lot of it's the young Black voters that seem to be swayed by Trump.
Yes. Well, there's this notion that there was more money circulating in the Black community when Trump was in the White House.
Mm.
So a lot of these guys who are into black capitalism are like, yo, I was getting my paper when Trump was in the White House.
I was getting my people. That's why he says DJ Academics is Jamaican.
Is he really? He is. He is academics.
Get out of here.
He is Jamaican American.
Andy Williams confirms online rap space. All of them are right wing, permeated by the right wing, and especially manosphere ideas. That is another very good point.
That's very right wing.
Very good point. Very capitalistic.
Well, the manosphere types play on certain concepts of traditional masculinity that
Mm-hmm.
that are hinging on the notion that they've been robbed of those their ability to function as men by feminism and the rise of women in the workplace, and that they they want to be the traditional man, breadwinner, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. You make a good point. Jason says, I don't think they're right wing so much as they think they're being radical.
For being a conservative.
I don't see it as being conservative. I think they make a distinction between Trump and Republicanism. I think Trump is particularly attractive to them. I mean, he's got the gold sneakers, very important. Um, I think I think there's a lot of contrarianism as well as capitalistic ideas. I mean, Trump has solid gold everything, right? So that's where the money is. You
That's
want to be
all.
like that guy. His
Cap,
wife is practically solid gold.
capitalist realism goes a long way in the Trump world.
It does. What does the backlash to Trump's questioning of Harris's blackness reveal about the current state of racial discourse in America? Did we
You
do
asked
that?
you asked me this question, right?
Okay, sorry. I need to move the notes down. Kamala Harris was a key figure in the tough on crime legislation of the 1990s, a period that significantly impacted Black communities. How might this history affect her support among African American intellectuals and activists?
I think they're going to give her a complete pass, and I don't think that they're actually in any way going to blame her for that. I mean, if you're going to give Biden, who was the author of the '94 crime bill, a complete and actual pass, then what do you think about someone who was just a low-level DA, in San Francisco at the time? Because they see her as a functionary of the system, and they actually see her as a progressive 1990s prosecutor as well.
Mm-hmm. Enacting those laws that Joe Biden helped to put in place.
Exactly. I mean, those were. I mean, listen. There are many African Americans who supported those bills out of
Mm-hmm.
fear of crime in their communities. This is the crack cocaine era, and so on and so forth. I mean, I don't think that should make it a pass because the damage that came out of those legislations was so. Yeah, neoliberal realism. Good point, Jason. The damage that came out of those legislations was so horrible.
I came across an article this week that said that the DNC is ignoring one of their most important issues, which is climate change. Not
Really?
entirely surprising to me because it took them a long time to adopt it as an issue, but it is no longer even being spoken about.
Well, you know what I heard. You know what Kamala Harris recently flopped on. I don't know if you heard
Which,
about
what was that?
opposing fracking.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what that's about? It's about Pennsylvania politics.
Oh, good point. She's been flip flopping a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the um, one of the points that was made in the article was that climate change is obviously a huge global issue, but the DNC has positioned Donald Trump as a huge global issue, essentially. So he has eclipsed climate change in the minds of Democrats. He is a bigger issue.
Right. So they're using Donald Trump as a pretext to ignore some of the other salient issues that are coming back from the more left flank, such as climate change, to say Trump is is the concentrated threat at the moment.
Yes, that's horrific.
Wow. Well, that's what liberals do, man. That's what the centrist Democrats do.
That's true. That's true. You make a good point. But I mean, I think that's also why the African American intelligentsia and chattering class and activists are going to be in the tank for Kamala as well.
Well, you saw what happened to the Palestinian protesters. They were actually creating a firewall, a firewall around Kamala Harris against Palestinian activists, the
Mm,
black journalists.
were they?
Yeah, the Mark Lamont Hill had a program on his show talking about all black media personalities going to defend Kamala Harris against Palestinian activists. There was all kinds of back and forth on Twitter between Palestinian activists and media personalities. Again, talking about come to the DNC and you'll see what happens.
What?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That is
The,
outrageous.
the extent to which these folks are willing to protect Kamala from being scrutinized from anything that she's already done or that she's been willing should be willing to do.
Mhm.
This lets you know how far they will go to protect their political interests of that particular class. These folks have no moral compass at all.
Wow. We have a question in the chat from Evan.
Pascal, do you think the right wing will fully embrace ADOS because that would require adopting reparations, which would lose the white vote? That's a very good question.
Hmm.
I'm not completely. I'm not. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if the right would find some way to create a rhetorical form of reparation, rhetorical type of
Mm.
kowtowing or reparations that would basically seem like it would be farther than the Democrats would be willing to go. And I don't know if it would work, but it would be a shrewd move. It would be a shrewd move.
Mm. Jason has a question.
Because let me tell you right now, let me tell you where Kamala Harris is going to get stuck.
Hmm.
When the reparations question comes up, she's going to get jammed up.
True.
She's going to get jammed up. Because reparations has been elevated, whether we like it or not, at such a point in the discourse that there are enough spaces in Black discourse who take it as a serious issue.
Hmm.
So this woman is now positioning herself to be president of the United States. They're going to make a serious demands of her to hear what her plans are on reparations. And if she doesn't have a good answer to explain why she thinks it's not a sound plan, or whether or not she what or she doesn't support it, she's gonna have it. She might have a 5 minute kind of clip moment, one of those clips. For
Hmm.
example, how Bernie got thrown under the bus for a 5 second answer on reparation. And I
Right.
think he didn't even effectively answer. That could be very costly to her.
But she's on video already saying she's not going to be president of black people. She's not going to do anything specifically for black people. Something to that extent.
Yes, I saw that video, and that video already had a lot of repercussions as well.
Yep.
You know,
Jason is in the chat here.
we'll see. They give black people that can prove that they were discriminated against Amazon gift cards and Kamala box.
Kamala box.
Steve says she on record saying she won't do reparations. Well, if that comes up again, so I asked, how come they haven't brought up her Marxist dad? Is he still a Marxist? I don't know if he's still a Marxist, but he's still alive. Do you
That's
think
true.
Kamala can synthesize the diacodine of dipping and dapping and not knowing what's happening? Explain. Sizzle McFizzle has got jokes.
There was a time.
Steve, you believe the ADOS and FBA cats are at her neck? I think that their presence online is metastasized is more than in real life spaces, but they're having an effect on the discourse.
There was a time when people thought Kamala was on drugs. To Dizzle's point, I guess.
On drugs?
Yeah, like she seemed like she was on some really good like uppers. She's laughing at the wrong time. She seems a little dazed.
Like she's smoking some good weed, you mean drugs?
Maybe. She hasn't seemed like that lately. She seems a lot more on point. So they've dialed back her cocktail, I guess.
I don't know. I think that's an obscure allegation.
Fair enough. Let's move on. Can Harris's current stances on criminal justice reform and racial equity mitigate the criticism of her past actions?
I think she's going to get a complete pass on her past action, and she has yet to put forth any kind of adjustment plan for racial equity at all that I've seen of that is serious.
I totally agree. It's all about getting passes right now.
If she can do a flip-flop on fracking, I mean, that's a pretty significant environmental decision. Left spaces.
Since the height of the George Floyd protests and the defund the police movement, there has been a notable silence from many prominent Black intellectuals and activists. What factors might be contributing to this, and how could a Harris presidency change that?
I think the fact that Joe Biden was in the White House and that basically their job was to corral support around Biden and his policies as opposed to challenging them. Listen, have you noticed that once a Democrat gets office, all of the complaints go away?
That's very true.
Except Black Lives Matter came around during Obama, but that was, as a result of the police brutality cases. But once Trump is considered as the existential threat, so you don't want to mess things up for Biden too much because you're playing on his team. So as a result, once the George Floyd moment went away in 2020, Biden was in office. There's no reason to shake up the status quo anymore until again those cards are changed.
Put the Molotov cocktails away. Biden is in office now.
Exactly.
That's very true. Someone mentions they think she had a drinking problem.
Jason say, I think she's a drunk.
It's giving wine mom.
Wine mom. It's giving wine mom.
Yep. Yeah.
Cocktail Kathy.
Cocktail Kathy. That's our girl.
I can't call it. I don't know if Kamala Harris is a lush. I don't have.
I mean, at that level of politics, would it be unusual? Lots of pressure.
Hey, man, in those big suites up there in those conventions, you don't know what's going on up there.
Very true. Will the African American intelligentsia rally behind Harris as a symbol of progress, or will they view her as an insufficient response to the systemic issues facing Black America?
Oh no, they're gonna see her as, oh man, this it's all hope and change all over again. Forward. Did you see the video, the posters with Kamala Harris and forward and all that kind of, oh man. It's the whole Obama shtick all over. Joy, joy. You know, it's all of that vapid politics is back.
Do you think that her current campaign is sort of in the minds of the people pulling more from the Obama campaign or the Hillary Clinton campaign? Or in people's minds, is she kind of like both?
I think she's really pushing more from Obama.
Mm-hmm.
It's more feels than deals.
More feels than deals. You don't? Do you think she? Maybe that's because she doesn't have the chops of a Hillary Clinton.
She doesn't have the chops. Listen, as much as you may dislike Hillary, Hillary was a policy wonk.
Right.
You know, I don't get that sense from Kamala that she, you know, I don't get that sense that she's got a deep bench as policy. Either way, I'd still take Kamala to GMC. Oh my God, Jason.
I know. I've been seeing a lot of comments about how attractive she is and how Trump is also attracted to her and how he's struggling with his messaging, and that's part of it. Why is
Where do you,
everybody attracted to her? I've heard that it is a California thing to get attractive politicians and that we should be grateful for that they got it right. That's what you're supposed to do. Get attractive politicians in office.
Andy Williams said post-racial facial.
Oh God. I feel uncomfortable with the Harris's attractive comments.
I mean, I think, listen, she's Harris is a 60-year-old woman. She's gonna be 60 in October. She's not a young woman. People say she's so young. I was like, she's not that young.
Yeah.
And second of all, I mean, she's attractive for her age. I get that, but I mean, so what? Gretchen Whitmer is an attractive woman. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of politics?
There are many beautiful people in California, to be fair. I think Jason would stand behind that.
California is the land of the beautiful people.
That's that's what they say. That's what they say. Gavin Newsom, not a bad looking guy.
Gavin Newsom, do you like Gavin Newsom?
He's okay. I see where he's going with it.
He's tall.
Is he?
He looks tall.
American people like that. That was supposed to be a really big strike against Dennis Kucinich running for president. He's not tall. All the American presidents have been tall since the first one.
Wasn't he over 6 feet?
Dennis Kucinich?
The first president, George Washington.
Yeah, I believe it was. How might Harris's candidacy influence the broader political engagement of African Americans, particularly among younger voters who were energized by the social justice movements of 2020?
I think Kamala Harris, quite frankly, will further alienate younger Black people who
Mhm.
are questioning their loyalty to the Democratic Party, because she will be unable to back up any type of expectations they have in Democrats collectively providing benefits, which is something that I don't think is the politics that we have today. Racial brokerage politics doesn't
Mhm.
work anymore based on the machines, like the machine system we had in the past. We need new coalitions. We need a new type of politics. And frankly, the class dimensions among black people are fractured in a way that we have to have a working class black politics that fulfills the needs of working class black people. And that takes a coalition of those types of people to do so. Because if we are right now stuck in this type of brokerage where we have black elites negotiating black politics for the Martha's Vineyard crowd, negotiating for the working class black set, then that's not going to work.
You make an excellent point. But how long can they ride out this brokerage thing?
They're going to try for a long time because, again, they get a lot of compensation from it.
I have the same birthday as Jim Clyburn.
I won't hold it against you.
What role will the African American intelligentsia play in shaping the narrative around Harris's candidacy, and how might their support or critique impact her chances in the election?
I think it's going to be crucial. I think that the support of African Americans and the African American chattering class is going to be important to Harris. Look at how much she leans on this Divine Nine HBCU discourse. That's about a class politics. That's about getting college-educated black folk, fraternity, sorority types to really be behind her and be part of her foot soldiers to actually push the narrative.
I have a petty point to bring up, I suppose. So back when she was running the first time for president, Kamala Harris was, it was pointed out that she is a certain type of black man's fantasy woman. She's attractive. She has the sorority background, all of this sort of thing, right? She's whatever. She's intelligent. She's got a great job. And it occurred to me that you're kind of that guy that she's supposed to be super attractive to. You're the sorority guy. You're the fraternity guy. You have that background. You're a professional. Great job. Blah, blah, blah. Light-skinned mom.
Where are you going with this?
There was a narrative floating around that black men were very angry with her and were not going to vote for her because her husband was white.
So you think that black men have a problem with Kamala Harris because you feel that she turned their back on them and married a white guy?
Do you think that this might... I don't really see this narrative too much around, but is this going to creep up on her? Her not having kids, her having a white husband?
I know a lot of brothers who don't like her because she was a prosecutor. I don't know too many who are really hung up on the fact that her husband is white.
Okay. How much anti-prosecutor discourse are you seeing?
I mean, some people just come out and say Kamala was a cop. I mean, you gotta understand something. So
prosecutors are considered top cops.
I listen. First of all, I don't necessarily see that many black men totally fawning for Kamala Harris, as many people think that they are. That frankly.
All right, fair enough. Harris embodies multiple identities: Black, Indian, child of immigrants, woman. How might the intersectionality of her identity impact her appeal across various demographics within the Black community and beyond?
That's a very good question. I think that if she's strategic, under normal circumstances, she could use that to kind of play I mean many things to many people. But I think she's going to fail at that because when she was asked in that question by Dana Bash about Trump questioning her blackness, she could just come out and said, frankly, I'm a black woman. I always have been. She said, no, I'm not going to entertain that question. Now, I found that kind of question problematic. I was like, Why are you? If people are going to challenge you on this black identity, and you're demonstrating a willingness to not answer the question, you
Hmm.
that to me that just demonstrates a vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
that you need to really just come on, just knock it out of the box one time, and that's it. So to me, that tells me that she's not really prepared to handle that very effectively.
Can you read this comment, please?
I can confirm that there's some black men who are very skeptical about Harris for marrying a white man. Really?
Interesting. I see her husband being very de emphasized and maybe the rest of her family being emphasized more, like her sister and her niece. Not too much about the husband this time around.
Do you think the marriage was a marriage of convenience?
Hmm. I don't know. It's interesting because this was a question that was asked of Obama as well. Why did he choose Michelle? Would it have been better if he had chosen a white wife? So,
No, I definitely believe that Michelle Obama gave Barack Obama certain bona fides that he
mhm.
would not have had if he had married a white woman.
But Kamala sort of has those bona fides on her own for going to the sorority and the H.
The HBCU sorority thing give her certain bona fides as well. That's why she leans in on it so much. You know how many different members of the black political class are in a sorority and fraternity and went to an HBCU. It's not a big deal. Clyburn went to an HBCU. He's in a fraternity, but for her, it's a sticking point because
Mhm.
she needs that to validate her identity.
Interesting. Do you think that personally it did something for her maybe to be in an all black environment and maybe gave her a firmer identity in her blackness in real life, like personally for herself?
I mean, I'm sure growing up divorced in Canada, dealing with her dad being Jamaican and going back and forth between the two parents, she dealt with some kind of identity issues that was resolved by going to Howard and being in a sorority and all that stuff. I'm
Hmm.
sure it definitely kind of assuaged some of the more internal conflicts. It's possible.
It's possible because I hear it's apparently a transformative experience for black people,
It can be.
for both parents who are black. Yeah. Hmm. Is the Democratic Party's reliance on identity politics a sustainable strategy, or does it risk alienating voters who are more focused on policy outcomes than symbolic representation?
I do not think it's a sustainable. See, this is a very good question. It's a double edged sword, right?
Hmm.
I don't think it's in a sustainable policy, a way of politics, because people will get frustrated with it and see the shallowness of what it is. But how many different more identities are there that are waiting to be put in the deck? You have Latinos, you have gay LGBTQ, you have members of the Jewish community, you have members of the white ethnic community. We haven't had an Italian American president yet either. So who knows how far this can go?
Hey, an Italian president. That could be nice. We have a question in the chat. Pascal, do you have any plans to interview Dr. Jill Stein or Dr. Butch
I would
Ware?
love to. If listen, brother Bilal. Oh, shout out to brother Bilal. Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brother? If you have any way to get in contact with Dr. Jill Stein or Butch Ware, that would be awesome. I would love to do us to do an interview with Jill Stein and Butch Ware on our show. That would be a great mile hour.
Interesting.
We had an hour.
I would say in general, we don't interview candidates, but if Pascal is very into
We
it,
had we had Cornell West.
that's right. That's right. It actually makes me think about the function of HBCUs. The conversation on TIR with Joy James is so relevant here, says Sasha. Oh,
Shout out to that. I'm glad you appreciated that interview, Sasha. That's a great interview that we did on the Real News Network with Joy James.
Nice. Um, how has the legacy of George Floyd protests and the defund the police movement influenced the African American intelligentsia's approach to candidates like Harris, who have a complex history with criminal justice?
I don't think that they actually think that far. I'll be very honest with you.
Right.
I I think that they're really just blindly trying to push her into the office because not only on the identity issues, because she they see her as a representative of what they want in Democratic Party politics.
I agree. I think I think people are in a very non-questioning phase, and the Democrats are riding that wave as far as it'll take them.
Yeah.
In what ways could Harris's potential presidency serve as a litmus test for the success or failure of the social justice movements that gained momentum in 2020?
I think it'll be similar to the way in which the Bernie Sanders left was unable to push the Democratic Party overall to the left, in that they will find themselves frustrated in dealing with the Democratic Party machine, and they'll be jammed up.
Jammed up. Mm, that's a running theme. So, what do you think her chances are of actually winning? I know Jason is a firm believer that Trump is over, but what
When
do
I
you?
saw her perform in that interview, I lost security in believing she could win. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't perform well in interviews, and
No, no. Was she wacky and did she laugh a lot? Is she
she
back to
just
those old tricks?
she just seemed fizzle, not very pop.
Mm. Did she do word salad, trying to seem deep?
It was a lot of kind of like using the hands to kind of defer against not answering.
Mm. She's a lawyer. Do you have any insight into her? Uh,
She went to
being a lawyer as well?
UC Harris, UC Davis, I think. No,
Mhm.
she went to Hastings, UC Hastings.
Do you have any insight into her as to how she answers questions?
No, I don't find her to be a stellar communicator.
This person says, here.
Someone said, "Listen, the Black Greek population around the DMV is all in for it. Do you find the same?" Yes, I do. They're having conferences on, for Kamala. All over the graduate chapters of all the fraternities and sororities in South Florida are coming together to have strategy meetings on how to get her elected. It's all the foots are on the ground. She's using them as a march, as a stomping ground.
Interesting. She gets agitated. Do you find that during her
Yeah,
interviews?
she does.
Don't they teach you how to not do that in law school? It's supposed to be
Oh,
unflappable.
well, you're supposed to use logic to kind of take away your anger.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Um, Friend of mine also told me, Mr. Bill Cody, that around North Carolina he's seeing a lot of Trump signs.
Really?
Not a lot of not a lot of Harris. And he said that, I know that she was a bit slow with the rollout of some of her merch, but still seeing a lot of Trump signs.
Mm.
I don't know. Well, what do you feel about Michigan and the Palestine question?
I think that's going to be a very, very important transformative state for her. They kept Cornel West off the ballot in Michigan because because they didn't want to threaten the Democrats.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, they kept him off the ballot. I mean, I think she's got a real problem, particularly with young people. I don't know how much of a problem it is though, because even the Palestinian protesters are in the tank for Kamala, and they stress that they are supporters of her. They just want to speak.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they seem more concerned about Pennsylvania. than Michigan. Any other predictions you've got going forward?
I think we should look for swing. I think it's going to be a close election.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should look for Trump to challenge the election result if he loses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to have a better legal response team than he did before.
Mm.
And it could be an ugly court battle.
Very interesting. Oh, I hadn't even considered that, but that sounds right. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
All right. Thank you, M2 Song. And for those of you who are not regular watchers of This Is Revolution podcast, check us out on our normal scheduled dates of Tuesday, Thursday, and for Saturday. And we
Mm-hmm.
have special shows on Wednesdays with Jason Miles at 9 p.m. in the evening. And I think we can safely say, M2 Song, that we are out.
Out.